Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're doing very well. A little bit of an embarrassing thing. I actually thought it was an 8 o'clock show and I forgot it's 7. But no, seriously, the reason I'm late is nothing to do with that. The reason I'm late is because there's been some interesting questions, a bit of a Q&A with Fabrizio Romano. So I just wanted to see some of the quotes from there. So we're live anyway. So we're going to be talking about Sancho, Pogba, Haaland, all updates from Fabrizio Romano. Also a little bit around Eric Bailly leaving, and the main story is Manchester United to spend big. I think the story of the week, and again today, is that Man United must be definitely briefing that they're looking to make big signings this summer. So we'll be talking about that as well. But primarily, I just want to start off talking about these quotes that have come in from Romano and also about Eric Bailly. Please just take a notice. Just take a notice. Tonight's show is sponsored by Boohoo Man, the nice people at Boohoo Man. As you can see, I'm wearing some of their very latest clothing from the Boohoo Man running collection. And as I mentioned last time, there's a really cool feature in the new Boohoo range. They have hidden QR codes in their new collection, which takes you straight to the Boohoo site, where you can take advantage of the amazing 40% discount that they have given the United Stand viewers. All you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on their clothing and use the code United Stand to get that great discount. Thank you very much to Boohoo Man for supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. And let's get on with the show. But as you can see, I'm wearing some of the running gear. Links in the video description. 40% off with that code United Stand. And if you click the link in the video description, you can find those QR codes and get involved in that as well. But let's move into the show tonight. I mean, I do want to talk about Manchester United and Solskjaer's transfer delight and all of that. But I think there's some interesting quotes coming out. I was going to talk about Eric Bailly first, but I have clocked, as I'm sure many of you have, some of the quotes that are coming out from Fabrizio Romano's Q&A, which I think is really interesting. What he's saying, first of all, let's just talk about Paul Pogba, which is this is the situation. This is not breaking news. This is a quote from Fabrizio Romano. At the moment, there's no agreement, no advanced talks. It's complicated, and Mino Raiola is looking for solutions like a new club. Juventus would love to have Pogba, but their economic problem will make it complicated. Real Madrid have other things to deal with, but it's looking unlikely Pogba to stay at Manchester United, which is, basically what we said this morning, despite this news that it might not happen. But look, the summer will decide on that. He was also asked about Jadon Sancho, and what he said about Jadon Sancho is Manchester United were only one step away from finalising everything with Dortmund last summer. But at the last moment, the deal collapsed as Dortmund remained firm with their demands, which is, United played a game of poker and they lost. 90% club and all that. We know it was close, and Fabrizio Romano always said it was always, so close you could almost touch it. If Dortmund qualify for the Champions League next season, they'll want to keep Haaland and will ask for more than 150 million. And when I say more, I mean around 170 to 180 million. It depends on the structure of the proposal in relation to Erling Haaland. Champions League will be key. If Dortmund don't qualify for it, it will be a big problem to keep Erling Haaland and they may need to sell him. But he also says that Manchester United will meet with Mino Raiola on Erling Haaland. It's a complicated situation. Nothing is advanced, but United are interested in him. And Mino Raiola is now going to talk with all the English clubs about Erling Haaland, having spoken with the Spanish clubs, which is something that we obviously knew. So some interesting updates there from Fabrizio Romano. And certainly not surprising. Guardiola spot on saying that no one can afford 130 million for Haaland. Zakaria and Koundé are key for us. Love the content, guys. Keep it up, says Andrew Lees. Well, quite a range to talk about. We'll delve into what Romano said there. Also, there's a story that Inter Milan want Eric Bailly, 20 million euros, 15 million pounds, 1 year left on his contract. Would you do that deal? We're also going to be talking about Manchester Evening News have mentioned it. Numerous other outlets have mentioned it. United have got the funds for one marquee signing this summer, but they won't have the funds for two marquee signings. Yeah?
It's not working.
Right, go up to Olivia and tell her to come down and sort it for you, okay? Quick. It's all right. Seb's he always comes to his dad when he needs help with the phone. So that's get your sister to sort it. It's an iPhone. I haven't got one. So it's interesting in that sense that there are a lot of people saying that Manchester United have got the funds for one marquee signing but not two, which fits in perfectly with what James Cooper said on this channel on Monday. Yeah, I can see United spending 100 million but probably not taking a risk beyond that. So £100 million would basically be one marquee signing and a little bit left. Manchester Evening News take it even further and say that Manchester United will be monitoring the free transfer market to try and bring players in beyond the marquee signing. So I think it's really interesting in that sense as to how Manchester United will construct something. Spaghetti Bruno A's, if you know, you know. Happy Easter, guys, says AJ Singh. But the Manchester Evening News also saying that Manchester United at this point have had no interest or contact or talks with Andre Silva, who is obviously a striker playing at Eintracht Frankfurt. So quite a lot to get into. Manchester Evening News also talking about a centre-back and a striker. They may go for a right-back and a midfielder if they can trim the squad. And, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to compact everything in relation to what we've discussed, what I was told couple of weeks ago now, what we've heard this week, what we're hearing today, what Romano's just said. And I think if you could compartmentalise everything about United at the moment, and it's very important to be able to do that going into the match on Sunday and the constant games that we've got coming, well, what situation are we in going into this summer transfer window? And I think the way I would describe it is that Sancho, uncertain. I said this 2 weeks ago. We're uncertain on Sancho. We're interested, but how much do Dortmund want? And this is the problem. And Romano has said it this week and other people have said it. There's no doubt that United are interested in Sancho. Watch Sancho, but if they want 100 million, United ain't going to do it. So I think that's the story on Sancho. Erling Haaland, I mean, Romano's even said it tonight. United are definitely interested, but it's complicated. What are we doing? I mean, it makes no logical sense on any level. We haven't got 150 million quid. We should not spend 150 million quid on one player. What's that all about? I don't know, but everyone says we're interested. I feel that as a fan base, we're wasting our time in, getting involved in that. But there you go. That seems to be the case with that. Riola will come in and talk to English clubs. Complicated by Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba wants to leave the club. Can't find a club. Financial issues at Juventus. Other targets in Madrid. He wants to go. Will that happen? We're looking for a centre-back. We're looking for a striker. And I think the one thing that runs through all of this is that money is going to be an issue for a lot of clubs. And that's not going to be different for anybody. But Manchester United appear to have about £100 million. And how are they going to spend that £100 million? And I'd say, look, £100 million is not to be sniffed at. It isn't to be sniffed at all. But £100 million won't get you Haaland. £100 million won't get you Sancho and a centre-back. £100 million will possibly get you a Declan Rice and a Jules Koundé. And it's how United are going to construct this. And it's very interesting that striker, centre-back seem to be the two priorities. And yet, Haaland we keep getting mentioned about. Centre-back we keep getting mentioned about. But how do you do that with 100 million quid? And where do you find other money? So it's going to be, like Advas says, it's going to be spend big but spend smart. I don't like the sound of the free transfer market. I do like the sound of a year from contract end. Not quite a free transfer, but maybe that's lost in translation. Who's available on a free transfer this summer that we can get? Well, you've got Alaba, who we're not going to get. You've got Ramos, who we're not going to get. And beyond that, there isn't that many good players available on a free. There are a lot of players with 1 year left on their contract. Sabitzer, Zakaria, Varane, Mbappe, Dembele. That's just 5. And there's a lot more. There's a lot of people whose contract runs out in 2022. And maybe that's the free transfer thing we're talking about. Because ultimately, with 1 year left on your contract, you're nearly on a free transfer. And you certainly are on a free transfer to the club you're at. If you say, I ain't signing a new contract, I'm going for free in a year, you better cash in. And that may be what... I wouldn't panic too much about that story that Manchester United are going to look at free transfers. I don't think it's literally free transfers this summer. I think it's literally those players with 1 year left on their contract, of which there are many players that I think we would like. Andrea Balotelli should be our striker signing, says James McFarlane. I mean, a few years ago, I'd probably agree with you. Roman will write a cheque for Haaland. City will write a cheque. Financial fair play has been damned. Haaland guarantees trophies for them, says Michael Tonko. You know what? even I sit here now thinking, are United going to go and do something ridiculous with Erling Haaland? Are they going to do what they did with Fred and Sanchez and basically chuck everything on one thing when they need 3 or 4 things? I mean, look, nothing would surprise me with that football club. We don't spend properly for 8 years and then we go and chuck the hugest value, basically the big... We haven't, if we bought Erling Haaland, it's a £200 million outlay. It is. It makes no... Forget Manchester United. It makes no sense for Chelsea. It makes no sense for Barcelona. Because if you spend £200 million on a player, he's gone in 3 years. Who's going to spend 300 million on him? Like, nobody. So it makes no sense to do it. It makes no sense for anybody to do it. But somebody, I think, will do it. And you know what? I don't think we can do this. I've mocked the club saying they can't do it. They'll probably bloody do it now. Not because I've said it, but because would you rule United out doing something ridiculous? And when I say ridiculous, it could work out. Of course it could. But for me, it makes no sense to go, well, I'm all right. I've got McFred in midfield. I've got Maguire and Lindelof at the back. Just get me Erling Haaland. Just blow the... I mean, look, we've not spent... Over the last 3 years, we've not spent 200 million. To do it on one summer, on one player... I mean, wow. Mark, I have a feeling we are in for Bissouma this summer. Reading between the lines, Ollie's looking for players who nobody's speaking about. I'd be happy with him. What's your thoughts, says AJ Singh? I do like Bissouma. Yeah, I do like Bissouma. I mean, I want to get into some of your questions in a bit. I do like Bissouma, but... I mean, look, for me, Declan Rice is the player I would love at Manchester United as the centre defensive midfielder. Unfortunately, I don't think Declan Rice wants to come to us. I mean, Declan Rice is very social media savvy. He's even watched me play FIFA apparently. But, that's not going to make him come to Manchester United. And he wants to go to Chelsea. He wants to go to Chelsea, unfortunately. I said this to somebody tonight that, you can't deal with that. You've just got to get on with it. I think Declan Rice at Manchester United would be perfect. And I don't think he would regret it. I think he would realise very quickly the enormity of this club. There are players within that team that he knows and likes, like Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford and Luke Shaw. He would be idolised very, very quickly because our fan base is brilliant. Look, if we bought Erling Haaland, let's be honest, we would probably think that's a stupid deal from the board, but we wouldn't take it out on Haaland. We'd be like, you're a legend, mate. Come on. We would do that because that's what our fan base is like. So if Rice came to Manchester United, he would be adored. He would be backed. He is a lot of people think he's the right player. I think he could be captain material within 18 months, 2 years. And I think that he would be exactly what we need for many years to come. The problem is, I think he wants to go to Chelsea. Well, he wants to go to Chelsea. That's the problem. And we lost Ronaldo to Real Madrid because he loved Manchester United, but he wanted to go to Real Madrid. And I don't think we're going to get Declan Rice. So looking at alternatives. And there's no doubt that Manchester United like Declan Rice. I'm not going to criticise United and say they're not even looking at him. There's been plenty of players over the years. They definitely are interested and like him, but I think they know what we know, that if we put a bid in for Declan Rice, then Chelsea will be alerted. And if Chelsea want him, they'll get him. Mark, we need at least 3 MVP transfers in this summer, says Tariq. Well, unfortunately, we won't get 3. Smash a like on the video, by the way. Loads to get through tonight. Do want to intersperse it with your questions as well. Why do we always pass this sweeping statement that McTominay is box to box? He can barely dribble or pass the ball forward from one to the other. Well, I don't want to get into a McTominay thing. People seem to think I've got an agenda against Scott McTominay. I have an agenda against no player. I have an agenda against players that don't perform for Manchester United, full stop. That can be Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Fred, Dan James, Anthony Martial. I don't care. If you don't perform in a shirt, you're going to get criticised. That's what playing for Manchester United's all about. That's what it's always been. That's what I've heard on the terrace. That's what everybody hears on the terrace. That's what everybody here, that's the way it is. So, but with McTominay, for me, look, I'm not telling you Scott McTominay is a Premier League box-to-box player, but he is a box-to-box player. Whether he's good enough, I don't know, but he's definitely a box-to-box player and he's definitely not a CDM player because McTominay gets most of his praise for what he does in and around the opposition's box and he gets most of his criticism for what he does around our box. So to me, it's logical, get him near the other box. Mark, what if the player was Messi 5 years ago? There are players that come in once in a decade. Is Erling one, says Oscar. I mean, that's a good point. It's a good point. I personally feel that Erling Haaland is not going to change the course of Manchester United's season next year. If you drop Erling Haaland into this side, do we become a better side? Well, we do, because we've got a world-class striker. But does he get the ball from the back four and pass it forward quickly? No. Does he push the defensive line up the pitch? No. Does he create more chances for himself? How does he do that? So you need to build a team. Look, I've said this so many times. There are many other analogies. You don't buy the icing for a cake before you've bought the cake and cooked it. And I feel for United, to put the icing on the cake, you need 3 tiers. I think we've got 1 tier, which is our attack. Bruno Fernandes, and I think Rashford's good. But I still think that tier needs a bit of work. I don't think we've got a middle tier. I think that needs a lot of work. And the bottom tier needs a bit of work as well. So there's no point icing that cake when the 3 tiers aren't ready. And the 3 tiers are your defence, your midfield, and your attack. And of course, Haaland is part of that attack, and he's the icing on the cake. But we haven't built the cake yet. And I think most people who watch United know that. No one's going to turn the nose up at Erling Haaland. Nobody is going to turn that down. And look, Bruno Fernandes is an icing on the cake player. But we need more than that. HZ says Rice is Chelsea bound. I think they are favourites. Out of 10, the probability of Van der Beek and David De Gea starting. Sally, you've already asked me this today. I mean, I think David De Gea starts in goal. I don't think Van der Beek will start on Sunday. Who do you have winning the Champions League and the Europa League, Mark? I'm going to go with United in the Europa League, and I'm going to go with Chelsea in the Champions League. If we can get Sancho, isn't Pedro Neto a good option, says Ben Thornton. Look, there's lots and lots of options for Manchester United. We're going to talk about those options in a moment, but I think what you can take to the bank is that all around, and I wouldn't say this if I didn't believe it myself, all around, everywhere, whether it's what we were speaking about a couple of weeks ago, whether it's what people have spoken about today, this week, numerous outlets, good English outlets and good foreign outlets are basically saying Manchester United have got about £100 million. That's what we've got at the moment. You know, James Cooper said it on Monday, and a lot of people have said this week, United have got enough for 1 marquee signing, probably not 2. To me, that suggests £100 million is what we've got. How you use that £100 million is going to be very interesting. And also, can we top that £100 million up? If we sold a goalkeeper and make 40 million, is that 140 million? If we sell Lingard for 30 million, is that 170 million? That's what I mean. I've got a really tickly throat tonight. I think I've got a Haribo stuck up my nose. There's something up the back of my nose that's tickling my throat. I don't know what it is. It's basic stuff. Liverpool-type signings work when the emphasis is on the team. To play Ollie ball, you basically need elite signings in every position, says Joshua Harper. Can Haaland be a catalyst? Another player in the Bruno mentality that could help shape the dressing room and force a play style change by Ollie, says Nicky. Will Ollie, who do you think will be a realistically signing, says Ashley? Well, we'll come to that in a moment. I do want to talk about that. Sarvish, you can piss off. Like, joke or not, it's not funny. People die of that, you twat. I speak to my Chelsea friends, and one of the reasons why Lampard was sacked was his transfer targets. Lampard wanted Rice, the boss didn't, said Yasser Sad. Well, I hear different things, but we'll see. We will see. But look, what I wanted to say was that we'll talk about what we could do with that money in a moment. But I think that going back to that question, would Erling Haaland be a catalyst for Manchester United? Well, you could say, would Cristiano Ronaldo be a catalyst? I'd put Ronaldo and Haaland in the same category. Not that they're the same player, but Ronaldo would play number 9 for United and Erling Haaland would play number 9 for United. Now, pretend you get one of those players. Do you think, this is the question I would ask, do you think that if Manchester United have got Erling Haaland or Cristiano Ronaldo up front, we're going to catch City and win the league? That's the question. Yes, they're going to have a huge influence in the dressing room. They're both massive winners. Obviously, Ronaldo more. Ronaldo's a better player with a better history than Haaland, of course. He's got a whole career. But they would both be huge influence in the dressing room. They would both be star number 9s. Would they close the gap on Man City, as far as you're concerned? In my mind, no. Call me crazy, but if we actually move the ball quicker, Bruno would have even more goals and assists than he already has. Spot on, Case. Spot on. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Now, there are people saying that, yes, if we had Erling Haaland or Cristiano Ronaldo, we would win the league. I think you're deluded. In the nicest possible way. I mean, you know me. If I think you're deluded and an idiot, I'll tell you. I don't think you're deluded and an idiot. I think you're deluded. I don't think if you put Erling Haaland into United side or Cristiano Ronaldo into United side, we win the league. I think that's the most naive thing I've ever heard. Do you genuinely think if you put Ronaldo in that team, we're going to win the league? You've still got the problems that we've got. You've still got a back six. You've still got players who don't move the ball forward. I'm sorry, Cristiano Ronaldo or Erling Haaland playing against teams that are organised and do a low block because we're so slow, they're not going to have a problem. You've got to build a team. You get Erling Haaland and Ronaldo or Ronaldo at number 9 for United, but you've got a defence that plays a higher line and a midfield that moves the ball quicker to the front, will tear it up. But you put them in the team now, well, they're getting no service. I mean, you could be Pele. You could be Pele in his prime, Maradona in his prime. It wasn't a number 9, but you know what I mean. You could be any number 9 ever in their prime. You put them in that United team, where's the service? You know, we can all bitch about Cavani and we can all bitch about Martial, but where's the service? Where is the service? And that's something we've got to service, pardon the pun. So, you know. But we'll see. The club, we won't control what this club does. The club will control what it does. But they need to be thinking every day of the week. For me, and I've asked you this before, if I've got a choice between spending 175 million, and that's cheap, I think it's more 200 million. If you've got 175 million to spend on Erling Haaland, no, give me the check. I'm using that 175 million for something else. I am, because I can probably get a decent right winger. Well, no, bullshit. 175 million, I can get a top class right winger, centre back and CDM. I'm sorry, I'm taking them. I'm not writing a cheque for 175 million on one player. I don't care who they are. I really don't care who they are. I'm not spending 175 million on one player when that money can buy me 3 top class players. And if you speak to anybody, any ex-player, any United fan, they will all say, on average, we need 3 world-class players to win a title. So that's where I stand on it. Mark, how often do you think about it being almost 10 years without a title, a decade without a Premier League? Sickens me, says Voided Light. Don't know why you waste your time talking about transfers, then turn around saying we're not buying anyone. No, it's not your fault, just the way the club is, bored out. I haven't said we won't buy anyone, Matthew Fisher. We will buy players this summer. I've never said we won't buy anyone. I don't take it that far. We won't buy. I don't think we'll buy what we need, but we won't not buy anyone. We'd never bring Ronaldo back. The board will fear him being demanding of our crap pivots and defence. We need a CDM, a right winger, and a centre back, says Gabriel Noel. And we've conceded so many silly goals which have cost us many points. We need a centre back and a midfielder first before getting an attacker, says Rishab. Hey, you know what? It's all about opinion. I've said what I've said. You say what you'll say. That's the way it works. Salah Ahmed. I feel Ollie will emphasise on British signings this summer as he will go with what has worked for him. Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, than a foreign player who hasn't, like Van der Beek, Telles. Yeah, but who's his best signing? Bruno Fernandes. Last time I looked, he was playing for Portugal. Good point. I did want to talk about, though, Eric Bailly. Eric Bailly. So what's your thoughts on Eric Bailly? There is this story tonight that Inter Milan, again, are interested in a United player. He's got 1 year left on his contract, £15 million. Do you take the money for Bailly this summer, or do you give him a 4-year contract? What would you do? And you know what? We're not going to agree about everything tonight. We're not. We're going to talk about how you'd spend the 100 million in a minute, but we're not going to agree about everything United do this summer. Some would keep Pogba, some would sell him. Some would buy Declan Rice, some would buy somebody else. Some would go and spend everything on Haaland, some would build a team. Some would sell Lingard, some would keep Lingard. Some would keep Henderson, some would sell De Gea, some would do it the other way around. There's loads of things that lots of us are not going to agree about. So don't ever feel concerned about that. You know, it's about your opinion. And I respect... People often say to me, oh, you know, why do you have Ricky on the channel? He speaks total opposite stuff to you. But he speaks it with conviction. He believes in what he's talking about. And I respect that, even though I don't agree with it. So... You know, you've got to go with what you agree with. You haven't got to go what I would agree with or what the majority or the minority think. Go with what you think. And as long as you're happy with that, that's the way to be. On Eric Bailly, you knew I was leading up to something. On Eric Bailly, goodbye. Yes, that's what I think. You know, I'm not going to just leave it at that. I'd like a leaving party and a bit of a dance and, you know, let's have a few rum and cokes. But it's goodbye from me, Eric Bailly. And... the reason for that is I think 4 years, and it is 4 years, is enough evidence that he's injury prone. And I can't trust you I know I can start the season with you and Harry Maguire, and I know for 2 or 3 games we'll be fine. But then you're going to get injured for a month or 2, and I'm going to have to use Lindelof. That's reason to go. Reason 2, I'm not the manager of Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is. And I think in 2 years, we've seen that when push comes to shove, it doesn't matter how well Eric Bailly plays, and it doesn't matter who he plays against, he will be dropped for Lindelof. So that's reason 2. Reason 3, if we're going to buy a centre-back, well, Eric Bailly should go. So, yeah, for me, it is goodbye to Eric Bailly. I would take the 15 million. And people would say he's worth more than 15 million. Of course he is, but he's got 1 year left on his contract. And he's not a first teamer at United. So 15 million for Eric Bailly with 1 year left on his contract. It's a bargain. It's a bargain for somebody. It definitely is. But I would take that 15 million. Conte in for another one of our inconsistent crap players. I'm telling you, he's eyeing this job for when Ollie bottles it, clearing up the crap himself, says Gabriel Noel. Hey, I disagree with that. I don't think Eric... I'm not one of those people that thinks Eric... I'll just quantify this. The reasons I would get rid of Eric Bailly is, 1, I can't trust his injury record, so there's no point keeping him. And people say, well, use him as the backup. But what if he can still be injured as a backup? He can get injured at training. So no, the injury record means that I don't want him here anymore. And secondly, Solskjaer's the manager and doesn't rate him anyway. So that's why I'd move him on. And he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So I've got to choose to keep him or sign a new contract. If he had 2 or 3 years left on his contract, I'd probably say, let's see what happens next year. We've got to make a decision this summer. Based on the 2 points I've just said, I move him on. None of the reasons I would move him on are I don't rate him, I don't like him. I do think he's our best centre-back. I actually do. I do rate him. But, unfortunately, for the reasons I've said, I'd let him go. Let Bailly go to Inter with Martinez coming the other way. Even though I love Eric Bailly, he has too many injuries. Let's buy Varane for 51 million instead, says Chris Pankhurst. And thank you for the contribution, Rishab Roy. And yeah, I think for me, that would be the reason. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. I'm loving the video tonight. It's got Friday night vibes. I think people are getting energetic because of all the news that's out there, and also energetic because we're getting back to football. But yeah, I think ultimately... I think it's a horrible thing to say. I don't even like the words, but I can't trust... No, I can't. I don't think we can trust Eric Bailly. That's basically it. And that's not because, you can't trust him with your missus, or you can't trust him to go and get the milk from the shop, or you can't trust him to drive you home safely after a night out. That's not the trust I'm talking about. I'm talking about the trust in relation to, can I trust Eric Bailly to be Manchester United's centre-back for 38 games in a season? And we will play about 50 games, really, and I don't think you'll get 38 out of him. So I think centre-back partnerships, I've said it before. I've said it about Phil Jones. Even if you don't think Phil Jones is a good footballer, even if he's the best footballer we've got, I'd still sell Phil Jones, because you can't trust his injury record. And as a centre-back, I've said this so many times, haven't we? It's the one area in the pitch where partnerships exist now. It used to be your front two. Now it's your centre-backs. They are a partnership. You need them both to be fit a lot to have that partnership. Because if one of them plays 30 games for you and the other plays 30 games, well, that's half a season they can play together. What if it overlaps? You might only get 15 games together. You want 2 centre-backs. And look, Harry Maguire gets a lot of stick, but when is he injured? Harry Maguire has been fit for nearly probably over 95% of our games in his time here. Harry Maguire's been fit. Well, I tell you what, I will say to Harry Maguire, you know what? All right, you've been a bit dodgy with Lindelof, but you do give me something. You give me something, makes me feel all right. It does. It does make me feel all right, because I think with Harry Maguire, playing with the right centre-back, for England with Stones, he looks a lot better. With Eric Bailly, he looks a lot better. But if you give him the right centre-back, also, I think Harry Maguire's a really good centre-back with the right partner, but he's also going to be fit for 90% of your games and plus. That's a big plus for me, because you want your centre-back partnership to play together as much as possible. And Harry Maguire provides that, and Eric Bailly doesn't. But to be honest with you, I think that should have been our centre-back partnership this season, but it couldn't always be because Bailly's had a few injuries. And also Ollie wanted Lindelof. Only called Bailly inconsistent due to injuries, says Gabriel Noel. Fair play, I agree with you on that one. Maguire's not world-class, Kaplan. I would argue who is world-class at United. Bruno, Pogba, That's probably the only two at the moment. I think there's a few knocking on the door, but consistency is their issue. But Bruno is world class. I mean, some might say Pogba's not world class because he's not consistent enough. I think he's a world class talent. We all talk about Pogba and Bruno leaving for obvious reasons. My question is, how long will Rashford stay at this rate? Will he stay past 2023, says Brandon. I think Marcus Rashford will always have the money thrown at him, and I think he will always want to stay at Manchester United. So I don't think Rashford will go. I think we will move heaven and earth to keep Rashford, and because he's come through the youth system, I think he will have that connection to the club. I think because Bruno Fernandes came from Portugal, I think he will want to succeed here, but I think at a certain point he will go, look, this ain't working out, let me go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. But I think with Rashford, I'd be surprised if he wanted to go. But look, you run the risk. The fact that we're even talking about it, you do run the risk. So it could happen, and I think United need to always be open to that. But I think that Pogba will go. Of course, I think he will go. But if he doesn't go, I think time is running out in relation to Bruno Fernandes as well. I think we will face that problem very, very soon. I'm just checking something here. Somebody just said that there might be some news, so I'm just talking about that. But I do want to talk about what you do with 100 million. I think we can sort of... And look, it might be a little bit less than that. Of course, it might be a little bit less than that. But it also could be a little bit more than that. And I think that if... Look, what would you do with 100 million pounds? Let's not beat about the Kate Bush. You know, the reality is, what would you do with 100 million pounds if that's what Manchester United have got to spend this coming summer transfer window? And how long? Sorry, how long? Ages. Okay. Yeah. So it's what you do with that 100 million. And look, in some ways you could be quite scared because our net spend has been around 80 million. I mean, it was 130 million net spend when we bought Harry Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, but we sold Lukaku. What would I do with 100 million outright? For me, it's around 50 million for a centre-back, and it's around 50 million for a CDM. That's how I spend it. For you, we'll see in the live comments, for Manchester United, I think it's a centre-back, but more on a right winger or a striker. I still think if Dortmund said, you can have Jadon Sancho for 75 million, Manchester United would do it. David Lee's stake is burning. We'll go and turn it then. Don't count on a big offer for Bruno coming in, says Erna. No, won't happen. Not this summer. And do you think the Glazers might be forced to spend big in the summer to please Pogba and make him stay? And Ed might be sacked due to Nicky, but says Druv. Look, I am not saying this to build anybody's hopes up. I am not saying this for any other reason that this is the right time. I appreciate that we've had COVID. I appreciate that clubs are tentative. But I also know that Manchester United in 20 years' time will still be making massive amounts of money. And we'll still have a massive fan base. That I'm convinced that will be the case. So any business that looks short term is short term. This club, as a business, has easily at its disposal a big summer transfer fee at its disposal because it can speculate to accumulate. I've always said it can do that. It's leveraged debt at this club for 15 years. Like, you can easily get a loan, you can easily do things. So I feel that if I was in charge of Manchester United in the circuit, even if I had all the debt, imagine I was in charge of the club with the debt, I would look at this summer and I would go, this is the chance. You've got to take a risk, but this is the chance. There are so many clubs that are going to box clever. There are so many clubs that need to sell. There are so many clubs that are worried about their future. And whilst we need to be careful about our future, look at what Chelsea did last summer. Was anybody running around the streets with placards saying it's immoral, it's immoral? Look how much money Chelsea have spent when people are dying of COVID and people are closing down and losing their job. And I know that sounds really blunt, but it's true. And we heard last year that United were worried about spending money because people would think it's immoral. But Chelsea spent loads of money, and no one batted an eyelid. A lot of people were like, "Well done," they've enough because it's football. So I would look at this summer where things are a lot different to last summer, and if I was in charge of United, I'd be like, "This is our opportunity. If we're going to close a gap, now is the time to do it." And I'd be spending as much as we feasibly could. Now, I'm not saying spend 500 million. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying spend 300 million. That's ridiculous. But I'm edging to as close to 200 million as I can. And of course that includes selling players. I'm not saying spend 200 million and then anything you get from Lingard and Henderson or De Gea or anybody else or Pogba, you spend as well. I'm just saying push to 200 million, spend as much as you can. You might make 50, 60, 70 million from sales. But that means you still have 130 million that you're putting in. And I think this is the summer to do that, because if you do that, you get Koundé for 50 or Varane for 50. You get a Declan Rice or an equivalent for 50, 60. You get a Jadon Sancho for 75. And there you've spent 175 million. And that's what I would be looking to do this summer, because I don't see how we do it with 100 million. And I'm interested to see what people say. I don't see how we have a good summer with 100 million, because that only gets me a CDM and a centre-back, and I don't think United are doing it in that order. I think United with 100 million get a striker and a centre-back, but the quality of that striker might be way better, and the centre-back might be Ben White. So I think we've got to push to the 175 million. And that, yeah, of course that's going to include sales, but I think we need to spend 175 million. You can whack 75 million of that off in revenue from sales, but I think we've got to go to 175 million this summer. 150, 175. Because then you could get Sancho, you could get Koundé, and you could get Declan Rice. And that to me would be a very, very good summer. Out of Rashford and Bruno, who would you prefer to leave? Says Salah Ahmed. I mean, look, that's such a horrible question, which I will answer, because Marcus Rashford is everything you want a Manchester United player to be. And you lot can answer it as well, because I'm not just going to answer it. Mark, even though we have 100 million as a budget, how many first choices will we get? That's important, says Amit. Yeah, of course. What we practice is not what we preach. Or the other way round. Lingard plus 50 million for Rice, says Bashkar. Varane or Koundé for 60 million. Pogba, Ronaldo swap. Cavani, Bay, De Gea leave. Is that a good summer? Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's loads of permutations. I'd take that one over I like the one I said, but I'd take that one. If a situation ever came across that you have to sell Rashford or Bruno, who would you sell and why? That one would be a tough one. He's asked it again. Well, hopefully we'll get... Dia says I wouldn't even answer that question. Well, I'm not going to duck it. Not because I don't want to answer it, but I don't like sitting on the fence. So, no comment, says Marvin. Do you rate Lemar at RB Leipzig as a CDM? Good enough for United, and also a Sabitzer as a CDM? Well, I will answer that, Sakin. Sabitzer's not a centre defensive midfielder, despite the bad football takes or out of context bullshit that people do to people to try and get retweets, as we saw at the start of the week. I never said Sabitzer was a CDM. That's the hilarious thing. Goldbridge thinks Sabitzer's a CDM, and I will answer Rashford or Bruno. Goldbridge thinks Sabitzer's a CDM. Not what I said. Totally out of context, but you crack on with your retweets. The reality is, what I said was I would take Sabitzer at Manchester United, and I think in the midfield pivot, Sabitzer and Van der Beek or Sabitzer and Pogba would do way better than McFred or Matic and Fred. 100%. So, to me, I think Sabitzer technically could do that role. I think he could take the ball from the back four and move it forward better than McFred. But I would take him. I would take him at United. But I think more realistically, Man United won't go anywhere near Sabitzer if Pogba stays. If Pogba goes, I would bring him in, because that's the sort of player I think Sabitzer could be for Manchester United. The more box-to-box role. We need a specialist CDM. That's what we need. Sabitzer's not a specialist CDM. But I do think Sabitzer and Pogba would be better than McFred, even though neither of them are a specialist CDM. But neither's McFred or Matic. So there you go. Right, Rashford or Bruno? Rashford or Bruno? Right, Marcus Rashford epitomises everything Manchester United's all about. He's come through the youth setup. He's done fantastically well. He's a really talented player. I would never want to sell Marcus Rashford. But if you're asking me between the two, it's Bruno every day of the week. Bruno stays, Rashford goes, because Bruno Fernandes is a better player. Bruno Fernandes has more of he's a conductor. You know, I think Rashford is a Ryan Giggs, whereas Bruno Fernandes is an Eric Cantona. I think Marcus Rashford is a Paul Scholes, whereas Bruno Fernandes is a Roy Keane. Do you get what I mean? Like, I think Bruno Fernandes, whilst being a better player, I think they're very similar in talent. One's a winger, one's number 10. But at this stage of their careers, if you're asking me right now, I've got to pick between one of them, I'm going to go with Bruno, because Bruno, you take Bruno out the team, United fall apart, like we saw against Leicester. You take Rashford out the team, we're definitely weaker. But I just think Bruno Fernandes is a leader and Rashford isn't quite there yet. I think give him 2 more years, he will be. But I wouldn't want to lose either of those two players. You've given me a question that we'll never have to answer, hopefully. Need to sell Lingard and Jones. Andreas and maybe Delo could easily give us those extra 50 to 60 million, says Abhishek. You're only getting 50 to 60 million for Lingard, Jones, Pereira and Delo if Lingard's going for 40. I mean, we're not going to get much for Delo. We won't get much for Pereira. And I don't even know if we'll get any money for Phil Jones. I mean, I think Phil Jones needs to be let go. But we can't let Phil Jones go with 3 years left on his contract, because that's 12 million payout. He's on 4 million a year. So we can't terminate his contract because he'd have to pay his wages. What you want somebody to do is take Phil Jones for free, but obviously take his wage. 60 million for Sancho, Lingard plus 35 million for Rice is Grand Verve. Swap Pogba for Varane, or David De Gea plus 20 million for Varane. Swap Bay for Torres, sell Delo, Pereira, Matic. I mean, look, all these ideas are good. But Andy and Bruno says, Mark, we all like Rashford, or most of us do, but he'd have to go and keep Bruno. Yeah, look, it will never happen, and we don't want it to happen. I mean, look, we can all do Football Manager. We can all do FIFA. We can all do swap deals. We can all find good deals. But in fairness to United on this, Declan Rice plus Lingard and cash, yeah, I'm sure that could be done. But as I've said, Declan Rice wants to go to Chelsea. If Chelsea come out and say, we don't want you, Declan, and West Ham don't get European football, then yeah, United, cash, Lingard, Rice, yes, it can happen. But Chelsea have got to rule themselves out. And United have, and even when that happens, even if Chelsea do rule themselves out as of a Declan Rice deal, we've still got to win the race for Rice, because Pep might say I want him. Klopp might say they want him. So, you know, there are alternatives for Declan Rice, even if Chelsea say no. But I won't lie to you, West Ham are desperate to sign Jesse Lingard. And why wouldn't they be? He's been brilliant for them. And he would be brilliant for them next season. It's the perfect club for Jesse. But what if the perfect club is Leicester? You know, Leicester, he might do a good job for Leicester. So I think West Ham are desperate to sign Jesse Lingard, and I think West Ham will give us a good fee for Jesse Lingard. And I think Lingard might want to go to West Ham, but it doesn't mean we get Declan Rice. I mean, Jesse Lingard could be saying, you know, United would be brilliant for you, Declan, or he might be saying, you know, go where you want to go. But that's what'll happen. Hi Mark, I love your show. Tommy Lee and Mickey, says Tommy Lee. Thank you very much, pal. Shrinvanchan says, Delo is more of a right wing back and is Portuguese. Why not swap him for Neves? Andreas can also be thrown into the deal. Jones plus 60 million for Grealish, says Adwood. So basically 60 million for Grealish. I don't think there's a value to Phil Jones. I don't. I think I'll be very surprised if anybody paid any money for him. And I'm not joking. It's not like a joke that we'd have to pay them, or they'll pay Monopoly money or anything like that. It's not a joke. I don't think any club is stupid enough to buy Phil Jones. Nothing to do with whether he's any good. His injury record is a joke. I mean, a bad joke. It's a bad joke for him. He's been out for a year. We went into lockdown and he was fit. He's never come back. So Phil Jones, and that, look, this isn't his only injury, is it? Like, he's always injured. Like, why would anybody pay money for him? Is there a club out there with stupid owners that buy crap players for lots of money? No. And when I say crap players, I'm not talking about his ability. I mean, you can be crap because of your injury record. So I don't see how anybody would spend money on that. I'm sorry, you've got to be blunt, haven't you? And I don't think they would. Ben White for Phil Jones. Again, Potter's an intelligent guy. I don't think he'll do it. Never happening, but if PSG said Rashford plus 20 million for Mbappe, would you take it? And I don't think I would, and that deal wouldn't happen. I know Mbappe's better than Rashford, but I do have a loyalty to our players, and I think, you know, people like Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, they have a sentimental value as well as a talent value, and for everything that Mbappe's better than Rashford, the sentimental value makes him more valuable to me than Mbappe. And people will laugh. They will laugh. They'll say, "Oh my God, Goldbridge don't know ball. He wouldn't swap Rashford for Mbappe." But you know what? I'll defend that point because I love this football club. I love what this football club stands for, and I think Marcus Rashford is the identikit of what this club is. A very talented young player that's come through the youth setup. I wouldn't give that up for Mbappe, even though Mbappe's better. Because I don't think the Rashford-Mbappe gap is huge, but the sentimental value that Rashford holds, that I value that. I value the class of 92. I value Marcus Rashford. I value Mason Greenwood because it's important. I mean, to be honest with you, if Scott McTominay or Jesse Lingard hadn't come through the youth setup, some of the performances they've put in, I don't think they would get the affection and loyalty that they do get because they've come through the youth setup. It means something to come through the youth setup. So, you know, to me, I wouldn't do it, but I'm sure most of you would. Can you throw something on the barbecue for the next cooking with Goldbridge? Maybe a brisket, salmon, turkey, an all-day smoke kind of thing. Sounds good. Stephen Lazarus. Woodward, bada bing, it's Josh King, says Kevin Barrett. I see what you did there, but fortunately for us, should I say, not Marcus Rashford. What was I trying to say? I've totally lost my point. Josh King plays for Everton now, so that's what I was trying to say. So fortunately, we don't need to worry about that too much. So there you go. There's a few things I wanted to talk about. Andre Silva we've spoken about. Van der Beek, I just want to talk about that very, very quickly. Lingard we've spoken about. Scratch your arse. Don't know what that means. Trimming the squad and Van der Beek. I do want to talk about that very quickly. Mark, you're right. United is run like a business, but can't the Glazers see that spending upwards of £1 billion, we are so nowhere near where we need to be, says Druv. Yeah, we've spent badly. Van der Beek, just very, very quickly. I think it's interesting on Van der Beek, but I don't think we can really surmise what's going to happen until the summer. But I was thinking about this today. This is something new I did want to add. Let me just have a stretch. When we talk about Donny van der Beek, people get very animated. I get that. I understand that. People get very animated about Donny van der Beek and the reason they do is because he's a very divisive thing. Some people even think, oh, I back Ollie, he's crap, he's a flop. Some people do that. Some people think he's a number 10 and he can't play anywhere else, and that's why that happens. And some people think that that he'll leave in the summer. And some people think that next season will be his big season. What I think about it is this. I think that with him, to those people who say next season will be his year, okay, Paul Pogba leaves and suddenly we're going to start using him. But Paul Pogba's been injured and we didn't use him. Paul Pogba's not been fit and we didn't use him. He was still behind Matic, McTominay and Fred for a lot of those key games. So I don't agree with people who say that next season will be Donny's season, because I don't think we've integrated him this season. I think that to play a player, as we've said many times on here, if you want to integrate a player for next season, the best thing you can do this season is get them in. You know, play them more. And the cold, harsh facts about Van der Beek is that if we're looking to use him next season, why have we wasted this season? He's played less Premier League minutes than Van Dijk, who got injured in October. Like, he should have had half an hour more. And that's the worry I have with Van der Beek is, all right, we're going to use him next season, but there's been loads of games where we could have given him 25 minutes, half an hour at the end of a game, integrate him, and we refused to do that. So I think that argument is flawed. Also, what I would say is, why can't Van der Beek be used between the next 2 months of the season? What logically keeps him out of the team? So I think things need to happen with Van der Beek this summer. Cold, harsh conversations between Van der Beek and Solskjaer about why over this season you've ignored me. Why have you not tried me off the right? Why have you not given me half an hour towards the end of games in the pivot, or put me on at the left, or just got me involved more? Why have you not done that? And why should I trust you that you're going to do it next season? I don't think Van der Beek's going to leave. I don't think that's definitely going to happen. But I think there definitely will be a big conversation this summer. And I think it's a conversation that's going to need to be resolved for next season. He's got to play more football. Mark, could you say everyone in full Foots and Wiles Stuffs are Prats? Our football WhatsApp group, says Andrew K. Everyone in Foots and Wiles Stuff are Prats. Thanks, Andrew K. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that trimming the squad is going to be key this summer. We all talk about 100 million. We all talk about centre-backs and CDMs and right-wingers and strikers. And look, how we do that is going to be very interesting. But we're going to have to trim the squad as well. I think Lingard's very easy. I mean, look, we might give Lingard a new contract. We talk about Lingard going. I think it's best for Jesse. It's best for us. What if they give him a new contract? What if they keep De Gea and Henderson? What if we can't shift Delo? What if we can't shift Pereira? Phil Jones will probably be here next year. So Eric Bailly might give him a new contract. So there's a big Paul Pogba might stay. So Cavani might stay for another year. We might put the problems off, is what I'm saying. Cavani stays, he'll only stay for a year. Pogba runs his contract, he's only here for a year. Henderson and De Gea becomes a problem again next season. You get no money in, but you keep your squad heavy. And that's trimming of the squad isn't just a hypothetical how much you're going to get for Delo, how much you're going to get for Pereira. It's also are we going to move them on? Next season, you talk about bringing players in. We might start the season next season with Phil Jones fit, Delo back, Pereira back, and the same squad that we've got. In which case, you're 3 players heavier than you were this season. So, you know what I mean? Trimming the squad is going to be very, very important. And it's a big challenge. And United need to be proactive on that. If United have 15 to 20 games left, including Premier League and Europa, if Van der Beek doesn't play half of them of games, will he want to go knowing it can't go on like this? Well, look, I don't think Van der Beek will play on Sunday. And I actually think we're going to continue to see him hardly used. I don't see Van der Beek starting many games now because we've got no Carabao Cup, we've got no FA Cup. We've got very important Europa League games and very important Premier League games. Now, I hope we're going to use Van der Beek, because if we're going to use him, we're using him in important games. But I fear we're going to see him not used. Now, if we get to the end of the season and Van der Beek knocks on the door and says, "Look, you've still not used me. What's going on?" And Ollie says, "Pogba's going to leave. I'm going to use you, Donny." Will he use him? But maybe that will be the thing for Donny. I mean, what I was reading today is that Donny van der Beek was fully aware that shifting Bruno or Pogba out of the team was going to be very hard. And I think he came into that with his eyes open. What I don't think he came into is... I mean, look, a lot of people were quite happy about that. They were like, well, Van der Beek's not unhappy. He knew it would be hard to shift Pogba and Bruno. He's just got to wait for his time. Very good point. Very good point. Very good way to justify it. I would say, all right, I came into this club, Ollie, with my eyes wide open. I knew it would be hard to replace Bruno and Pogba. I knew that. However, I'm not just a number 10. The right wing has been exposed all season. Why couldn't you try me there? You've played Mata there. Why can't you play me there? Or off the left? Why have you not played me in the pivot? Pogba's been injured and you've not played me. So, all right, I knew it would be hard to shift Pogba and Bruno, but there's loads of other ways you could have used me, and I've played less minutes than an injured guy. So, who's been out for most of the season for Liverpool. So, I think that, there are always two sides to a story, and there are many twists and turns. Ultimately, in my opinion, Van der Beek's not been used as much as he could, and I think that will need to be clarified and dealt with very, very soon. Definitely. But look, the summer will be huge. It might not be the summer you want. It might not be the summer that you want, but we are in a situation whereby it might be the summer that that you do want, and I think that's something we will have to wait and see what happens with. Sorry, I've just been sent a message. I just want to check what it is. Can you guess what it is yet? No, I can't guess what it is yet. missed that. I thought I'd frozen. Van der Beek needs to play further. 1 minute, I just want to check something, because the reason I'm doing this show earlier tonight is because we're meant to be having dinner. Okay. Donny needs to put his head down like Shaw and force Ollie to pick him. I don't think he's been exceptional in the games he's been picked. Donny needs to put his head down like Shaw. Oscar, I think he's been very good in most of the games that he's played, to be honest. I think that's a bit of a myth, but I understand why you might think that, because it's very hard to remember all the times Van der Beek's actually played for Manchester United. I think he struggled in that game that we saw him play last time. Did somebody say just eat? Says Alpha Gaming. And all my people right here, right now. Do you know what I mean? Says Kyle. Classic tune. Everybody asking me whether I'm doing Grand Theft Auto tonight. I'm not. I'm not doing Grand Theft Auto tonight. I'm doing it tomorrow night after Liverpool play Arsenal. I've got a meal tonight and a few glasses of stuff. So watch out for Twitter and stuff, and maybe some Insta. But I won't be able to play computer games. I mean, this is a great question from Matt, and I'd like to see what people say. What is the most likely scenario this summer? Well, look, you're asking me to stick my hand in a barrel, and God knows what I'm going to pull out. So I've got there's no reason to believe what I'm about to say now. I mean, I have spoken to people. We have seen what's been said over the last couple of weeks. I think the most likely scenario is, I think Pogba's a really difficult one. I always start with the difficult one. I think Pogba's such a difficult one. I know he wants to go. I understand why he wants to go. But can he get the deal to go? And I would rather he went than run his contract down. What do I think will happen with Pogba? I think he's going to run his contract down. I fear that's what's going to happen. And I think that's the worst scenario for United. I think he's going to run his contract down. Haaland, we won't get him. We won't get Haaland. We shouldn't get Haaland because that 175 million, and people keep saying, why are you talking about 175 million? Dortmund want 150. It's not just what you pay Dortmund, it's what you pay as a signing on fee, it's what you pay the agent. That will go north of 175 million. So that money should be spent elsewhere. We shouldn't go for Haaland. We probably haven't even got that money. So I don't think we'll get Haaland. Sancho, I just wonder what damage. I mean, look, the Sancho one's very easy. United like him. How much do Dortmund want for him? And that will be the stumbling block there. We will get a centre-back. It should be Koundé or Varane. Wouldn't surprise me if we end up with Torres or Ben White. But I hope we get a good centre-back in. Centre defensive midfielder, I just can't see it. Even though it's a major position, I can't see that happening. And maybe we get Trippier. Striker, I don't know what we'll do as a striker, because to be honest with you, I quite like Isaac at Sociedad. But I mean, look, the honest answer is, as I go through these things, I don't know which goalkeeper we're going to get rid of. I can't give you an answer. I really can't. And in some ways that's really exciting, but in other ways it's massively, massively concerning, isn't it? So I just think fasten your seatbelts, get ready for the ride. I think United have got about £100 million to spend. That sounds like a lot of money, because it is, but it's difficult to spend £100 million when you need 4 players. So I think we've got to. I think they've got to box clever. I think they've got to be efficient. I think they've got to be competent. I think they've got to trim the squad, and I think they've got to go north of 150 million to get 3 good players in. It's a big ask when you look at the last 8 years. But I think this is the summer to do it. I think if they get this summer wrong, Solskjaer's gone next season. So if they're building around Solskjaer, they've got to get it right this summer. And the club are building around Solskjaer. They firmly believe that Solskjaer will be at this club for the next 3 years. If they're going to do that and believe that, they've got to provide the platform for it. Because what the club don't realise is, if we go into next season and play some of the football we've played recently and the results falter, then football fans will want Solskjaer gone. And they will have to sack him, no matter what their plan is. So if they truly want and believe that this man is the manager, they've got to back him this summer. And to back him this summer, they've got to push towards 150 million. 100 of their own money and 50 from sales. And if they do that and they get 3 quality players in, then I expect to see progress in the way they play, but also in the way that we grow as a team. And I think that's the summer we've got to have. And I think it's possible. But the club have got to match their own ambition and their own progress statement. They believe Solskjaer's the man. For him to be the man, they've got to do that. Simple as that. Somebody just wants me to check a tweet here, so I'll just check it before I move to the next topic. One of the attractions of Nikola Milenkovic for Manchester United is that he's on very low wages at Fiorentina. He's paid less than £1 million per year. Signing him would allow United to bring in another centre-back, a starter. No. Man United have been in discussions with Nikola Milenkovic. United think they would be able to sign him for €10 million this summer, as he's out of contract next year. For Fiorentina would look to get €15 million. I mean, look, Milenkovic is good. I will tell you this. We'll probably end up talking about it more tomorrow. But I'll tell you what, Milenkovic is good. There's nothing wrong with doing a good deal. Like £13 million for Milenkovic and cheap wages is very good. £1 million a year, well, Phil Jones is on 40. 4 million a year. 4 million, not 44, God no. So 4 million a year is about 80 grand. So Milenkovic is probably on about £30,000 a week. £30,000 a week for Milenkovic and £13 million transfer fee is a major bargain. But for anybody who knows anything about Milenkovic, he's very similar to Harry Maguire. He's not quick. He's tall. And just because it's a bargain doesn't make it a good deal. And that's my problem with Milenkovic. It's a fantastic bargain, but he doesn't work with Harry Maguire. I don't see how it works with Harry Maguire. I still think we'd have to play pretty similar to what we play with Lindelof. But look, it is cheap. If we signed Sancho last summer, where would we be at this point in the season, says Mario? I don't think we'd have won the league, but great question, easy answer. If we had Sancho at this team this year, we'd have played better football and created more chances and scored more goals, but I don't think we'd be closer to Man City to win the league. But where we'd be progressing. We'd be able to bring in another 2 players this summer and keep progressing. I don't think we've progressed this season in the way we've played football. I think the results have been better, but I don't think the football's been better. And if Sancho had been in the team, but we had the same points, we would be progressing better for next season, if that makes sense. Thoughts on United, Madrid, Barca being the clubs who hated the Champions League revamp after agreeing taking a 50-50 share with UEFA now want 70-30. Monza. I don't know anything about that, Monza. I'd have to look into that. How come no one is talking about the fact Ollie judges a player's footballing ability based on hairstyle? He should be sacked for that, says Huncho. Yeah, I don't really understand what that's all about, although I've seen it a lot as well. Look, I've got to go and get my dinner. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. We're back in the morning, of course. Please subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Smash a like on the video, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Enjoy what you're doing. I'll speak to you in a bit.